This working session of the Lakeville Area Schools Board of Education. For attendance purposes, I'll have the board members in attendance tonight. Please state your name and your role, and then we'll get started with our discussion for the night. So we'll start on this end of the table over here.
Director Keller, Judy Kelleher, Board of Education.
Brian Thompson.
David Anderson, Vice Chair.
Kim Baker, Chair.
Michael Bauman, Interim Superintendent.
Carly Anderson, Board of Education.
Terry Lynn, Board of Education.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the reason that we're here tonight, we have two folds with this discussion. They're all kind of rolled into discussion item A, which is the board put out an RFI to look into a superintendent search company. So we do have some of those that have been returned, but we also have a discussion that we would like to open up to the board floor as Mr. Bauman has expressed interest in also retaining that superintendent role. So that's part of our discussion tonight. So I guess, where do we want to start? So we had three people return, or three companies return the RFIs. Board members should have those in front of you. First one was Ray and Associates, then we had BWP, and then we also had MSBA. I'm hoping that you had time to review some of those, but I'll open up the floor for discussion on those things at this point. Director Carly Anderson.
I will just say that one of the things that we had talked about when we were meeting, it was just a small group of us, but meeting about like the superintendent search was basically kind of what our role was in the process. And so I saw a lot of similarities across these three different groups, but one thing that stood out for MSBA was they basically said that once they decide on a group of people to put forth, they then allow the school board to add or subtract anybody or scratch it if they determine that it's not a good group of candidates. And so that to me is probably something we could ask the other two groups about if they would be willing to be flexible about that, but that stood out to me as something that I think is very important in this process.
I also like the fact that they let you read the applications, like all the applications that come in. That wasn't something I saw with the other two consulting agencies either. But again, I think it's something that we could ask if we needed to. I did note that one of these we'd had in the past.
The associates.
Right.
I spoke with three board members from three different school districts that used MSBA throughout the process and had very favorable reviews on the process, the transparency, and then also making sure that they were able to capture what they were looking for in the superintendent. So I feel comfortable with them as well.
Given that we were thinking that we would have at least four and we only have three, we did hold back 2 dates to do that, to have them come and present. BWP did reach out to us and say that they're available on 10:30. So my assumption is that they're probably not available on the 28th, which was one of those dates that we had put out there. So that's just for the board knowledge there. We might have to adjust some things if we wanted them to come and present to us. Go ahead.
Well, how about discussion on Bauman's just extending his contract?
We can do that because that is part of this discussion as well. Superintendent Bauman did a meet with David Anderson and I, just part of our meeting as we're getting into the role and bringing him up to speed in the district, and the chair meets with the superintendent. So one of the things that he mentioned was his interest in continuing a superintendent role with Lakeville Schools and his commitment to the district. So that is something that we can discuss at this time as well. Director Thompson.
Yeah, it's already been just a couple weeks. I will share, in the spirit of being transparent as well, that I had a few conversations with some folks within the district, just parents and some just teachers that I know, just because I don't know very many outside of those that have met with taught my kids. But lots of positive feedback that you are present inside the buildings, and it's hard to probably do your job when you're not inside a building. And so I appreciate that you being there. There seems to be obviously some favorability in regards to a shift in the tenor, the atmosphere, the culture, but there's still a lot more work that needs to be done, in my opinion, in regards to building those kind of relationships back to where maybe they might have been in the past. I don't know, because I wasn't actively involved 2 years ago. But over the past couple weeks, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, favorable stuff. But again, that is what I would hope and expected with the interim superintendent, with your background, your experience that you have here. And so I think having you here was a good decision. But then deciding the long term of where you sit with our organization is a separate conversation, and be glad to have that.
This is a working session, so we don't have to be quite as formal, but, yeah. I'm just making sure that everybody gets their turn to speak. So Carly, did you have something to say, or Terry?
Terry, you can go ahead.
You have to remember to turn this on because we don't have those little things in front of us anymore. When I heard that Michael was interested in it, I saw a lot of positives. I know the staff is supports him greatly. The administration does. A lot of the community. What we need, I think, right now is someone to calm the waters.
Stability.
Yeah, to calm the water, even on the board, to calm the waters. And I think Michael can do it. So that's where I stand.
Can I just,
Sure.
Would you prefer I leave the room? 'Cause I really would like people to have candid conversation, and if I'm in any way distracting to that, I really don't want to create that. I do want to say, though, to board members here that, my life situation is adjusted, and I would love an opportunity to improve upon my last opportunity, but I also want everybody to know the district, this school system isn't not an esoteric thing. It's about the people. It is people, and I care deeply. And I just want everybody to know that. And then maybe I leave and you guys can have a deeper conversation, because maybe there's not, support for that.
You can, okay.
It might be,
Stay, yeah, I don't mind.
since it's public.
I just
rec-
offer that if
Yeah.
if we have consensus that I stay, I'm happy to stay. I just hope there's a candid conversation, and I am a very imperfect person, but you will get 110% out of me. So I'll say that.
I'm fine either way, but
I guess since it's being taped, I think maybe give you an opportunity to tell you what changed your mind or why you decided that you would like that position.
I appreciate that, Terry, thanks.
For Michael.
Yes.
Is that the wrong question to ask?
No, his microphone's a
My
little
buddy,
tricky.
my buddies in the back there are messing with me. I'm just kidding. Sure, I appreciate the opportunity to say that. So there's really three factors. The first is, obviously, I retired. I retired from the military, and then I retired from here, and that was 2 years ago. And our intentions were, we were looking at, my wife and I were empty nesters, looking at perhaps moving to a warmer clime.
Texas.
Well, not Texas, Arizona, and Florida were on the table, just candidly. But my wife is from South Minneapolis, and she loves Minnesota. I love Minnesota, too. I'm originally from Olivia, Minnesota, for anybody who wants to know. Where's this guy from? Olivia, Minnesota. It's in Renville County. But, also have, both of us have parents that live, in the metro area. And Mom, I apologize, but she's 85. And my in-laws are as well. So we made a decision to stay, and we're staying in Lakeville, and that was a decision that's happened over the last 2 years. In light of that, so that's reason number one. I'm just going to stay in Lakeville. I was working another opportunity, my own business scenario, and I was very happy with that. But again, I live in the community. So if I'm going to stay, and an opportunity was, I was asked about taking on this challenge, and I love this community deeply, because you got to be from somewhere, right, in this world, and growing up as an Army brat and being in the military for a long time, I want a home, and this is my home. And I finally, kind of came to that at a very old age that I am. And so... Well, yeah. I'm having my diamond birthdays. Anybody know what that is? Yeah. When the year you were born and the year you are match. So I guess I should, anybody can look it up. I was born in 1962. So that tells you how old I am. But my feeling about this community, it's in my heart, in my soul, and when it's there, it's there. So you have to have purpose in life, and I'm never going to make the PGA, so that golfing thing's got to go aside. This is really important. This, educating our young people, there is no higher calling that I know of in life. I always felt the military was a pretty high calling. Maybe, being a pastor or something like that, a priest or a rabbi or any of those it may be a higher calling. But this is so important to who we are as a nation, a state, and a community. And if I can do something to help that purpose matters to me. Deeply, deeply matters to me. So that's my why, Director Lind, and thank you for asking. And I did it for a while before, so I think I have the knowledge, ability, and skill to offer something more. I want to give more.
Yeah, well, as noted, it was Ray and Associates is who we used, the search firm we used the last time you went through the competitive process, when you were selected at that point. The only thing that would be of a concern for me is that I think we would still need to publicly post for the position to protect us from a potential discrimination suit, so that we have it at least posted out there. From the recommendation of MSBA and the attorneys and HR, any HR would say the same thing, that you would still post for the position to make sure that we protect the district.
Okay.
I'm probably going to be the person who, and it's nothing against you, Mr. Baumann. I will say that when I heard you were interested, my first reaction was, great, we're going to have a great applicant. Like, that was my thought. My thought was not that you would move into this position, more that we would at least have one qualified applicant. I think very seriously about things we tell the community and things we tell ourselves as a board in terms of what we're committing to. And I was very much in favor of having you be our interim, because when I asked people, I went into buildings and asked people what they thought about you coming back, and it was consistently positive feedback. And I think at the time that, like people are saying, the here and now, what we need is for our staff morale to improve, for trust and relationships to really improve between the staff and the board and the DO and all of that. So I was very much in favor of you moving into that interim position. And I think one thing that I'm just challenged by with this is not I don't disagree with the things that other people are saying. I just think we committed to a process, and I want to see that process through, which is a robust superintendent search. And I would hope that you would apply. That is my perspective. And when we appointed you interim, we really didn't have, I feel like the meeting we had, it wasn't really an interview of you. And to be honest, I do have some hardball questions for you that I think if you were to move into this role, I would want to ask you. Just because I think when you left, I probably have feelings coming on as a board member at that time. It was a very dark time in our district to come in as a board member and cut $7 million. And so when you left and someone had to come in and handle that, and we had to come in and handle that. And so we have righted this ship. We are moving in the right direction. But I have hard questions I want to be able to ask you in an application process. And so my opinion is we said to our community, this is our interim. We're going to do a robust superintendent search. That's what I would like to see happen, and I would hope you would apply.
Go ahead, Terry.
I think the only challenge I have with that is if I'm an outside candidate and I know that the current superintendent is going to apply for the position, why would I even apply?
Plus, he's already been through that
What?
process. Plus, he's already been through that process once.
Yeah.
I was a community member on some of the committees that worked during that process and attended the interviews and asked questions. So I had that opportunity. Like, I had that opportunity. So I appreciate that you want some of your questions answered too. But anyway, go ahead, Terry. Sorry. I ramble.
Done.
Oh, you're done.
No, and
Okay. Judy.
No, go ahead, Carly.
I was just going to say, I think we're kind of in a bind with not knowing, like, if Mr. Baumann, you were interested in the position, I wouldn't have said, let's appoint him as interim. I would have said, let's find someone else and encourage him to apply to our, so things have changed and we can't control that. But I think we are in a situation of, Terry, you're right. Now we have an interim who's interested, and it might reduce our pool. And I personally still want to go through the process we previously committed to. And I know that you went through it before in terms of the hiring process. And there's also the history of your superintendency. And so that's just where I would have questions, me personally.
I think I would say, I think we need to be thoughtful in how we have this discussion, and just because, maybe we're looking at that interim role and, the interview process, just because one's happening doesn't mean the other doesn't happen too. Like, I guess when I'm thinking about it, like, it is hard in an interim role to get a whole lot done, and I think for Mr. Baumann, that's got to be kind of difficult when you're in the position where you were here before, you know the people, you want to get on the ground and you want to get your wheels rolling, but there's only so much you can do when your contract is through a limited amount of time. So I guess my thought process is you could extend the contract and give him time to calm the waters, right the ship, and get things moving in the right direction. That doesn't mean that we're not going to go through a superintendent process eventually. It just means that process is delayed, that's just an option. You could delay that process. And I do want to say, like, the conversations that I've had with Mr. Baumann, this was something that, happened after he had started and came in as the interim. He kind of shifted, his mind kind of shifted, and we've had some really great conversations about the district and what it means to both of us, and our reasons to serve. So I just want to be thoughtful about when we have this discussion, like, one doesn't necessarily mean we can't do the other, or we can be open-minded about how that process unfolds too. So, Judy, I see your hand up.
Yep. So Carly, I totally respect your position and conversation on that. I think there's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind with an interim superintendent. There's, what do I want to say, limited expectations or limited actions that an interim superintendent can take. So therefore, that puts us into a tough position. Doing a robust superintendent process, I believe, just based off past experiences, I've been through 6 superintendent processes before, hiring processes before, and the first thing that applicants do, and people that are interested, the first thing they do is watch board meetings and listen to board meetings and scope out the future board. And so as robust as a process we might want, I think would be very challenging at this time to get a robust set of applicants. But the other thing is that interim Superintendent Bauman has rose to the top through a prior vetted process, and it wasn't like it was 5 or 6 years ago, it was just 2 years ago. And
2 years ago?
Well, it was 5 years ago.
that's 2 years ago.
He rose to the top 2 years ago.
Well, no.
He was interviewed
He
5
was,
years
I
ago.
mean, he went, yeah, I'm sorry.
Or
He
longer.
rose through, it was 5 years ago, or
2016,
yes,
17.
and then for 5 years, and just out of the system for the last 2 years.
Correct.
So, yeah, so I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is there hasn't been a lot lost in that last 2 years from what he has gained from his experience and his involvement in the community. And so, I do think in the interest of this district and some of the, the sooner that we can put a permanent person in place, and it's, even if it's for a 3-year contract, I think that stability is kind of important, because we've got a lot that needs to be done, from building expectations and from budgeting expectations and the finances. And we have a really nice opportunity in the next couple of years with some of the taxes and bonds that will be falling off the tax base. And it's going to be critical that we have the timing of some of our facility needs and stuff being addressed. And for the sake of the district, I don't want to lose that momentum, because that's what we lost with our levy referendum that we were looking to do and couldn't get done until recently. So I think there's a lot to weigh into all of this. And I know we communicated that we were going to do the superintendent process. The goal was
This is still part of a superintendent process.
correct, and the goal was to talk about this and determine what that process was going to be. And so, I'm struggling. I mean, I understand where you're at and that having a community voice in this, but the community has had a voice in it the last time he was hired, because we did have a really extensive process with what Ray and Associates did with community input, staff input, student inputs, and so forth. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on this, and I don't know. So,
Dave, haven't heard from you yet.
Don't be shocked. I agree with Judy.
It's the big one.
Brian?
hang in there, Terry.
How about me?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for raising your hand and even entertaining to continue to stay on, so I appreciate that. I think for these kind of roles, you can't take them lightly, just because someone in this leadership capacity what they bring to the table, the shadow that they bring to the table, spans across an enterprise and an organization and so forth. So having the right person in that capacity is a huge decision that needs to be made and so forth. I guess what I'd like to do is just kind of talk through out loud, what if you didn't? And so if you didn't do this, we would go through the application process. So, and then we would find a superintendent through that application process. But that person more than likely would not start until June of next year. July of next year. And I don't know if there's any within the district that has a superintendent license that would come up through the ranks, because from what I hear, there are other districts that have individuals within their executive and business staff that have that superintendent's or on the verge of getting that superintendent's licensure, so that they can you can go through the ranks and become a superintendent within that respective district. But if we did find someone here, we'd have to bring someone external. And if you bring someone external with an assumption they're from Minnesota, they don't know where Eastview is. They don't know that we have got 2 high schools and that kick ass in both football and various sports. But there are things that they have to learn. So there'll be a growing pain and a learning session that person would have to do. And then my assumption would be that around January, February would be that in 2 weeks, we're going to have 3 new board members. And then those board members ought to have a say in who they would like to work with for their respective term. And so if I was a new board member starting in January, then I'm the one deciding who the next superintendent is. And without a whole lot of context around how does a school board operate, how does a school district operate, because I didn't know. After 2 years of being here, I probably know just a little bit more, but not. It was a learning curve. And so that's a lot of pressure to put on those individuals as well. But so if they're going through a growing pain for the first 6 months with Michael here, you get a new superintendent that starts in July. So they'd have to make relationships again with that individual. And so then we're looking at probably another year thereafter to really put together some fundamental changes where the existing with the new board might see or want to do within the first year, and then the superintendent kind of getting engaged. And so the question then that you have to ask yourselves is, well, not that next July, but the following July, can we wait 2 years to start making changes in how our district moves forward? And so I don't know the answer for that, but
I get what you're saying, and I feel like part of that discussion also needs to be around what we have going on in the district right now. So we currently have a levy.
Yeah.
We're going to need to build more buildings, because we're continuing to grow. We were talking about the 700 student increase that we saw over the past 4 years, and that's
The
going
building.
Right. So, and that's going to flow up. So right now, we've alleviated that a little bit with the new elementary school, but
Yep.
the next step is going to be middle school, and then we're going to have to look at our high schools.
3 years, 4 years to build.
Correct. So it does put us behind the process when we have to start over from scratch within 9 months again, and look at the fact that they've got to get up to speed if they don't know the district and blah, 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 and figure all this out.
So then
For building.
So let me play this out then if you did decide to move forward. And so obviously there's pros and cons. The board gets to pick and choose who the new superintendent is. I am looking for our next Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. I want someone who's going to be here for the next 5-10 years. And obviously whoever it is, they may not stay, but we need someone who we can grow with along the way. And so, Mr. Baldwin, if you chose to stay, I would count this as year 1. And so that by the end of year 3, the current board, 3 years from now, or 2 years from now, they've been in their capacity for at least 2 years. They're able to see, experience, and then also be able to work with Mr. Ballman in that capacity. And then decide, all right, have we gotten out? So at work, we use a phrase, what do we need to stabilize? Do we need to operationalize, or do we need to transform? And it feels like where we are at as an organization,
All 3.
we're probably more at the stabilization phase. And I don't know how long that's going to take. You know, I don't know how many relationships, I don't know what the financial side, there are things that need to be done that may not be able to get remediated as quickly, with an interim title, but, and so forth. And so, but I don't want the new board members that will be here in 2 weeks, or will be elected by the community in 2 weeks, to not be able to have a say in this. And so my recommendation would be that I think there would be a huge advantage, someone with your experience within our community, to be that bridge for the next however, for that 3-year window, using this as year one, giving the new school board members an opportunity to make their decision halfway through their term, which direction they want to go. And then also to provide some veteran folks within our board for questions as other veterans are leaving the board of directors role. But I don't want to not have their voice in some capacity. And so while this conversation will probably still be ongoing, some way, somehow, I don't know what the best practice is to how we incorporate those individuals who are elected to have a conversation. I would love to have a conversation with them as well to make sure that, hey, what do you think? Because we shouldn't be asking 3 board members that are leaving in literally 60 days to make a decision that drastically impacts 3 new board members. And so my recommendation is to make sure that we pause, gather feedback from those folks before any decision is made.
So I agree with what you're saying, but I also want to be mindful of when we're talking about the decisions that we have to make, like the members that are outgoing are members until December 31st. Plus, they've been on the board for a number of years. So regardless of the fact that they're not running for election anymore, they are still committed to this district and to serving in their role. So I don't think that we need to continually bring that up. And I think it's kind of rude that we are doing that, like, or that it's been being brought up that way. So I want to make sure to just be respectful to the board members that are still serving out the end of their term through December 31st. That being said, like, I guess, like, I go back to what Judy brought up, that if they've been living in the community, they've had say in some of the process because he has already been through that process once. And then I agree with what you're saying, that it does bring some stability to the district, I feel. So I don't know. I think Judy brought up a good point of legally the clean part of it would be to post. Yeah. Terry?
I always like to cut to the chase. It
Go for
seems
it.
like the majority of the board is in favor of going ahead with him, Michael, become the superintendent. So what do we do next? Let's not say why we want him anymore, because we all heard that.
We could go on for a while. I think that Judy's idea makes the most sense, like, just for legality-wise and for cleanness of the process. I think it should be posted, for sure. I think that's, like, the number one step that we need to do. Secondly, I think the board needs to decide, while that is being posted, do we want to continue to interview the organizations or not? I agree. I feel like we have a majority that are kind of feeling one way, but I mean, we can put it we can vote on it. I mean, working sessions are still meetings.
It's just agreeing to a process.
As long as there's a quorum of the board, it's a meeting.
But, yeah, it's just agreeing to whatever process we're moving forward with.
Right. So how would the board like to move forward? Director Thompson?
I would like the superintendent to meet with 3 new elected members post-election. I would like to be able to have conversations with those 3 individuals as well, since I will be working with them for the next 2 years thereafter to get their point of view. And the community elected those 3 individuals. And so while we post stuff online, we can do that in parallel. We can have another meeting with MSBA around the process in parallel. I mean, the elections are literally in 2 weeks. And so if the Wednesday or Thursday or Friday conversations are had around those elected new board members and Director Bauman, then it would be helpful for me that I reach out and have conversations with those 3 elected officials.
The issue with that is that they don't become board members till January 1st, and
Yeah.
I know of one case where one board member who won the election did not decide to take the position. So you can't really do anything.
But I think to Brian's point, though, Terry, he's just asking Michael to meet with them
Oh,
and
that's
talk
fine.
with them.
That's fine.
And not from a decision perspective. So, Brian, are you still recommending that we move forward and interview and meet with a couple of the RFI respondents?
So
My
I just want to,
recommenda-
can I throw a wrench in there? Just one wrench. Like, if we have 3 board members elected who don't agree with this process, my concern is if we delay, like, then we're just delayed in this process.
Right.
So I think our goal was to really get this going in November and be ready to be interviewing December time frame. December, January, whenever it was. So, I mean, I think I really
Posting in
appreciate
November,
wanting to be inclusive of the people coming onto the board, but I also think that just delays what we're,
Yeah,
Right.
and that's why my question was, I think he's looking like a dual track, and that's why, are you still recommending that we
When would we be meeting with these other vendors?
gave them the date of the 28th or the 30th of October?
Okay, so we're looking at 2 weeks from now, or was it next week?
week.
1 week from now. Elections on the 4th. Meetings can be had the 5th. Meetings can be had, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then it's up to you guys if you want to reach out to those board members, but I would like to reach out to those board members and have a conversation. But you are right, Carly. Like let's hypothetically say they don't want to.
I
They
feel like a
have-
lame duck.
I mean, and maybe it's rare, right? Just like doing,
You're not a lame duck, Terry. You're not a lame duck, Terry.
what if they choose not to, which is fine. And my hope is that they would understand the value of having an existing superintendent stay for 2 years of their term to bridge the gap, lessons learned, and for them to see what they like and don't like for a superintendent, for them to set their course in their school board capacity 2 years thereafter. But my hope is that it will be rare that they don't like him. But I think you got to give them that opportunity to be able to have that say. I don't think we ought to be making that choice without their input. And so if they share their input early November, there's no reason that a regular board meeting in November 22nd or whatever the upcoming meeting is, we can make an official call at that time, which is only 30 days from now. So still, this is an expedited process, but it allows folks who are fully vested in campaigning, as in getting feedback from the community, they ought to have a say.
So I guess my question would be, like, I get what you're saying, that you want who's ever elected on the 5th to have some say in the process, but again, they're not, like, they can't take the seat until January 1st. So then,
I understand.
even if you're talking to them, like, is that going to change how you're feeling right now?
So here's my question for you, all right? So you and you, if all 3 board members that are coming in say, no, I don't want, and I want to go through the process, shouldn't that play a part?
I don't know, because, like, I remember what I was like when I
Woulda, coulda,
started, and you
shoulda.
don't know what you don't know. Like, there's a big learning curve.
I just want to point out that, like, in 2 years, let's say, so one of the things you're thinking about is, okay, let the new board members come on, and then in 2 years, they would be able to conduct their own search and be more veteran. I don't know if the 3 of us are going to run again. So it could be a very similar situation of more new board members coming on in the midst of a I feel like we cannot be thinking in that way because we just don't know what the future holds. We don't know what kind of crap we're going to be dealing, like, think about COVID. We have no idea.
Don't say that word.
Sorry. We have no idea what is going to happen and what kind of fire this district is going to be under for whatever reason, for who knows why. So I feel like we have to make the decision for our future, which, again, to me, we committed to a process. I want to see it through. That is what I would like to do. That is my stance. But
So we should be thinking about not the oncoming board members, not the outgoing board members. We should be thinking about what is best for the district and what our students need in the classroom. And so we have agreed to a process, which is to find a superintendent. The first step was, let's do a request for information, which we have here. We can still proceed going forward one of the nights and interviewing 3 of them all in the same night, or, and determining at that point whether we want to move forward or not, because I think what was discussed is us determining from the request for information what we need in a superintendent, and then deciding if we wanted to do a request for proposal or if we were going to do another process. So the only process we've really described at this point is that we would find a superintendent and starting with a information request. But I think what we really need to talk about is what we think is best and what this district needs right now, and maybe that's part of the conversation we have on the 28th or the 30th or whatever. But, I mean, I think the importance is getting the morale back up, getting stability in our community, or stability in our school system, and making sure that we have a successful path to getting the facilities and the dollars and the mental health resources and stuff that our students need. And so I think that with that, putting somebody in place that has been here before is the way to go, because again, I have concerns about what would be coming out of a superintendent search process for the district and the aftermath of the learning the district.
Post it, but don't do.
I think we have to post it.
But don't do the whole company, post it, but don't do the whole.
That's why I'm asking if Brian is saying that he still wants to move forward with this. I got confused on what he was saying, whether he wanted to move forward with this, and to honor what Carly said when we talked about the process. We did talk about getting this information and interviewing them, and do we want to follow through with that communicated process, and then deciding what to do after that point.
But I
Well, and I
agree,
wanna
but I
be-
agree with what Terry said. If we know that Mr. Bauman is going to apply, it's going to discourage a lot of people. I don't disagree with Carly or
Well-
Ryan. I think they're
Right.
making very good points.
Well,
No,
and I want to be
and
clear
we're
that.
lame ducks, so.
That's why I brought this to the board now, so that we could make an informed decision based on this new information.
What I recommend that we just post the position, put a hold on these RFIs for now, and then we'll have a work session, I would assume, between now and then we could iron out some differences. How's that sound?
I think that's a good idea.
Well, I would also say that gives some, I would feel better about not making a specific decision tonight, because it does allow us time to process some of this, as well as community to have input if they want to have it. Because that is one thing that I don't feel great about, is just making a decision without people having their opportunity to provide their opinions.
But
I-
Well, you're going to have
Go
to
ahead.
postpone these presentations then to
Well,
be fair to them.
there
Okay.
is-
Judy wanted to comment on
Yeah,
that.
to me, we have to make a decision tonight whether we're going to move forward this or not, because they took the time to respond to us. Do we want to hear what that process is, or are we going to let them know we're going in a different direction?
I feel like it's a little bit, sorry,
I think we should pause right now.
yeah.
Pause.
Just
I'm
because
asking,
I-
just make a decision.
Yeah,
not very
I think
nice
we
to
should pause
interview
because
them.
I don't want to
Pause.
go through that process and then tell them and have them come in and then say, oh, yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of disrespectful. So I feel like it's appropriate to reach out and just tell them that we're on pause right now in light of new information.
Yes.
And then that the.
And they're gonna
and then
find
the-
out anyway, so,
Right,
yeah,
then
go
the-
ahead.
The process would be to make a posting and talk about this at our next working session, which is, no, because we have if we want to keep the ones that we have set up from this process, we can, or if we want to cancel those, correct? Because we have one on the 28th and the 30th, is that right?
We have one on the
would put them through
28th and the
that until we know.
30th, so
I would.
we need to let them know, like tomorrow, that we
delay
are
it.
pausing this and
Yeah.
not doing anything, and then those
Then-
meetings don't need to be posted for the 28th or the 30th.
So we want to cancel those meetings right now and not discuss this again until, I would say, after the 2-week posting?
They're not posted. They haven't been posted,
Oh,
so we
okay.
just won't do them.
Okay, so we'll just put a pause. I wonder if Ryan did it.
Oh.
Sure I did it on Friday afternoon, saved this.
Nobody remembers anything on Friday afternoon, it's okay.
Let me see.
All right, so we're going to pause.
Oh, you did post them.
So we're going to pause the RFI process,
Let's pack up and get out of here.
Yep.
and then we're going to cancel the meetings,
The 29th, the 28th and the 30th.
the 28th and the 30th. So then when's our next working session, Kim?
November 12th.
Is it November 12th? Okay, so our next working session is November 12th, so then the posting will go up
The 28th, 30th canceled.
for what, 2 weeks? Is that what we want to do?
I'd follow with the
That's legal?
MSBA just to confirm if it's necessary. I don't know the rules, so
They-
they so shared with us that if you have someone internal, you don't need to post, but.
They did
You
share
don't
that.
need to do a search firm.
You don't need to do a search firm, but I feel like the HR process legally, that's what we would do with any other opening in the district, so.
Yes.
I agree with Judy on that. I agree with Judy on that. See how
So
I did
then,
that?
So in the interim, in that 2-week window, I can commit to, I can reach out individually and have conversations
Okay.
thereafter, so.
So then this will be added on for an agenda topic on the 12th. All right,
Are we good?
I think we're good.
Good.
I don't think we have anything else to discuss tonight, so again, this is a working session, so we'll just adjourn, and we'll see everybody again on the 12th. Thanks.
Okay.